Hello, welcome back to the Villa View for a show in association with Luke Roper. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Omar to talk about Aston Villa's new left back, Luca Digne. I know Omar's a massive fan of him, so we're going to chew the fat about him for 10 or 15 minutes. I did a podcast earlier, and I was saying that really a couple of months ago, you'd have said Villa are going to bring in Philip Coutinho and Luca Digne. You'd have thought, same football manager, lads. No, absolutely no chance of Villa going to get two signings like that through the door. It's an incredible start, really, to the transfer. I don't think we're done either. So that's an incredible start to January transfer window, and great business from Villa.
Yeah, it shows the mentality of the team. I think in past January windows, we've almost got used to a mentality of consolidation, almost like we're going to wait till the summer unless we see a good deal. Like Morgan Sanson, it was a good deal, it was an opportunity, and they pounced on it. But we've been used to the likes of Samata and Baston and people like that. No disrespect to them, but obviously it's completely.
I mean, you are disrespecting them massively.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, they're on a different level. And then for us to go out in the January transfer window to do it so early, to get the likes of Philip Coutinho, again touted by many clubs, and Luca Digne, who's again linked to West Ham, Chelsea, Newcastle, etc. The caliber of players, the pedigree, Champions League winners, World Cup winners, play Champions League year in year out, to bring them in so easily, and well, maybe not easily, obviously we don't know what the details are, but on the face of it so quickly, and without too much fuss, it's shows you, well, first it shows you the pull of Steven Gerrard, shows you the pull of the club, and it shows you the ambition of the owners, I think, as well, and obviously Perslow as well, the work that's gone on in the background, and Langer, etc. Just I'm actually still a little bit, I just still can't quite believe it. We've talked in the past about Luca Digne in particular, when we faced Everton, and how good of a player he is and how he was their key player, etc., etc. So to have him in a key position as well, almost for me, it's almost, I don't know how you feel, but it almost feels like an even more important signing than Coutinho. Obviously, Coutinho's got more gravitas as a bigger name, and
it's permanent, isn't it?
Permanent, but also in a position that we really need, and a top player. Like, he's one of the top players in the league in that position. And I know he's had his issues, and we're quite lucky in that he's fallen out with Rafa and all that kind of stuff. But it's perfect timing in that respect. But to have his kind of caliber of player, to bring someone in when we've been used to bringing in Championship, the best of the Championship, or that 21 to 25-year-old sort of trying to progress, trying to grow as a player, etc., and sort of going along that journey with them, to bring someone who's at their peak, who's at their very best, who's a top quality, top quartile performing person in that position. It's a bit of a shift, do you not think? Or maybe this was always a plan, I'm not sure.
No, I don't. I'm not. I'd really. You have to be careful how you word it, because I'm really not being disrespectful to Dean Smith. But I don't think the club would have even gone for these two players. If he was still the manager, that it just wouldn't have happened with it. There is a shift. We've got a different type of manager now. So there's always going to be a change to this transfer strategy. That's hard to say. Harder to say than you would think it would be, because different managers go after different targets, don't they? Have different players in mind. I mean, from Dean Smith's perspective, we brought a couple of players in from Brentford who've been really, really good players for us, and players that we've progressed and made better. It's probably not the Gerrard way, but there's also, now we're at the point where there's more youth coming through that weren't there over the first few years of Dean Smith's tenure. That youth wasn't there to come through. So we're in the position perhaps to be able to buy more established players.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
No, yeah, I agree. And obviously we're still linked with someone like Keir Smith from Dundee, who's highly thought of 17-year-old. So we're still shopping at the end of that age range. But you're right. We've got players like Carney and Philogene Bidace and Ramsey and all these players. Kessler Hayden now coming back. And, these players who are going to supplement the first team squad that we can take a little bit of more of a not short term, more medium term view with the likes of Luca Digne and Philip Coutinho, because we still, I mean, last couple of years we've had one of the youngest squads, if not the youngest squad in terms of average age. So we can still afford to buy more experienced players, and we sort of saw it, I suppose, a little bit with Martinez. Although I was having this conversation on Twitter with someone, I was saying, with the goalkeeper, slightly different, obviously, with ages, the way their peak years work. But for Martinez is still relatively quite young for a keeper. But for us to buy established players, I don't know if it was a plan all along or not, but it's definitely evolution of the transfer strategy, as you said, and whether it's Gerrard or maybe Dean Smith was more comfortable, dealing with players who were in that sort of 21 to 25-year-old bracket trying to improve. Because that was a hallmark of Dean Smith, wasn't it? And his coaching team,
Yeah.
but then they was trying to improve players and make players better. Not to say Gerrard doesn't do that. Obviously, he's worked with a lot of young players in Rangers, but maybe there is that slight change in mentality, maybe.
You would say though as well, players that we've got now, they're now established Premier League players. So players that weren't a few years ago, Mings, Konsa, Cash, even Martinez to an extent wasn't really an established Premier League player. Watkins,
True.
They're young younger but established Premier League players now. We can bring in play. It's good to see us bringing in those top players that are also Premier League established, because that's what we haven't had. In the side, I'd even throw Ings into the bracket of. I saw someone else mention just down there. Throw him into the Dean and the Coutinho thing. I mean, we're lucky to get Coutinho. I think that's a one-off. If he gets firing, he's an absolute world-class footballer who's played at the highest of highest levels. So he's a bit different. But we're also more consolidated than we were in the Premier League. It feels like people are starting to take notice of us a little bit more, and a lot of that will have been from the early work Dean Smith's done. Gerrard's now taking it to that next level. So we're in a different position basically to even what we were in the summer. It's a different manager, and the way we go about business as well, it kind of debunks the myth that it's hard to get players in January, because it won't be easy, but Villa actually do make it look quite easy.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think maybe I'm being unkind. Maybe this was always the plan, because they talked about building a team to go up, building a team to stay up, the building a team to establish.
Wasn't that Winus?
Was it Winus? Oh, was it Winus?
I felt like that was Winus.
Well, it might be Winus. Oh God.
Yeah, I think it was.
I can't believe I said that now. Take it back. Can we rewind?
Shame alive.
No. But well, I mean, in terms of, I'm sure there was a strategy, a 5-year plan in terms of how they were going to do it. Now we're established. I think you're right. I think they maybe really take a bit more risk with FFP as well. I think one thing we haven't really talked about on this pod is FFP, and I think in detail anyway. I think there is definitely headroom there with the Grealish money still there in the background, and we've got the ability to spend money and take on higher wages. I suppose the key really now is that Grealish money is there for 3 years in effect, the way the FFP rules work. So we can spend the money over the next few years. The key then will be to progress as a club, because we need to increase our revenue, because once 3 years are up, then that amount, that revenue we've got from Grealish's sale, which is pure profit, will fall away. So the key then will be to making sure we've got revenues in place that can support the wages of Luca Digne and players like Coutinho. Maybe we obviously will not have in 3 years' time, but those types of players who are sort of earning top bracket, which is what the Premier League is about now. And it's, Premier League's pretty simple, apart from Leicester City, which are obviously the exception. The more you pay in terms of wages and fees, the more likely you are to be successful. So, we have to do it. This is the next stage in that sort of evolution, as we say. And I do think, we need to just generally as a fan base and generally as a football fans in general have to sort of shift away from this mentality of every player has to be between 19 and 25.
I saw your tweet and I completely agree with it. You're talking about 28, like he's finished.
Yeah.
He's at his peak.
He's at his peak. Yeah, exactly. He's got, and this is a player who doesn't rely on pace. He relies on his creativity in the final third and anticipation and sort of reading of the game. So not to say obviously he won't decline as a player, and it's unlikely we're going to get 25 million for him in 4 years' time when his contract's up. But in terms of taking a risk, 25 million over 4.5 years works out a cost of six and a bit million in terms of FFP. So it's not a massive amount, and if he helps to go up the league a few places, then it's all worth it. And like I say, players now look at Ashley Young. Look how fit he is, and Ronaldo and players like this. And there's been that list going around in terms of the top players in the world. They're all like 28, 29, 30 plus. It's changed. Football's changed. It's not like it was even like when we were watching as kids, like the likes of Dion Dublin and Merson coming in. They were
Merson was 30 when he came in. He was glorious for us.
Yeah, and they were at their peak, but they declined rapidly. But I think what you'll see now is players will reach their peak at that 28, 29 years old, but they won't decline as much. I think in terms of fitness levels, diet, nutrition, and all that kind of lifestyle thing, mean that they're probably going to play at a decent level for another 4 or 5 years. Beyond that, obviously, I guess we'll see. But I think for now, it's a good calculated risk. And at the money, I don't know what you think. I think it's pretty decent value for business. I think Everton will be fairly happy.
It's about 5 million. You're paying 5 million a season for the length of his contract. It's France's left back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing. We're not in a position to say Oh, we don't want France's left back because he's 28. Well, why not? If he's good enough, if he's good enough for France, he's definitely good enough for us. With all due respect, I think it's an incredible signing, and I've seen a lot of people as well say about like, oh, I feel sorry for Matt Target, but this is how you get better.
100%.
You get better by having two players for each position. Matt Target's not finished at Villa. He's not going to be the number one left back anymore, but he isn't finished. He's there to push Dean.
Yeah.
And he will play games. Dean won't play every single week. Your Target will come in for the odd games, but this is how you get better. You don't get better by having 6 defenders like we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
We've now got last season's player of the year. He's going to be sat on the bench. Now got France's left back playing. Even Kessler Hayden coming back, I think that's massive. Him coming back and pushing Cash, and I think he will push Cash. You need 2 players for each position. The way we had the defence, when Axel had gone, that would have been a struggle to get through the season. Every team, or every top team, or any team that wants to be a top team, will have 2 players for each position. That's what we're doing. So you don't go and then buy potential underneath Target for me. You go and buy someone who's better than him, and that's what we've done. I'm excited by it, and I think the squad's looking really strong. And we haven't had a squad. Villa have not had a strong squad for a long, long time. Someone tweeted me earlier, even under O'Neill, when we were a top 6 side, the first 11 was good, and then there was maybe 2 or 3 that you could bring off the bench that were a good level as well. There was no squad there really. There's quality players at Villa now. You need that.
You need a squad. You look at Chelsea, for example. They've got Chilwell and Alonso. In terms of left back. In Liverpool, Tsimikas and Robertson. Both equally. Obviously, Robertson is probably the best left back in the league, but Tsimikas is excellent as well. So you need that.
He's really good.
Yeah, you need that. You need that competition. And you're completely right. To raise levels. You're right. Completely right to say that. Target was a player of the year last year. It was excellent. I tweeted so many times about Matt Target and how good he was, but when we always compared him and we looked at other left backs in the league, he was always slightly lacking in the final third in terms of his stats and what he was doing. So he was never sort of elite level. He was never like at the level of Luke Shaw, Robertson, Chilwell, etc. He was also at the level below. And for us last year, that was probably fine, and he was one of our best players. And I really like Matt Target, but I think the key now with Luca Digne is. Firstly, competition definitely, but also I think he's a different type of player and he suits Gerrard's style. Target is excellent in terms of on the ball technique and passing and his defensive work, and he can cross the ball. But I think Luca Digne is completely on a different level. He's on the next level when it comes to creativity, and we've talked about this before. We talked about it before we started the pod, but his stats. If you look at his attacking stats and compare it to Matt Target. It is on a different level, and only really Robertson beats him in terms of left back in the league. And the way we've been playing, everyone's seen it. The number 8s are almost playing not in a fullback position, but they're sort of a little bit withdrawn with the fullbacks pushing up so high.
They push wide when we're defending.
Exactly.
To be fair, even when we're attacking, actually, because they're covering off the fullback who's pushed forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the number 8s are doing such a sterling job at the moment, and they're doing a lot of work. But it allows the fullbacks to get forward, and we've seen Cash and Target as alongside maybe Watkins or Ings as the furthest forward players. So it's key if they're that forward that we need to be able to rely on them to put crosses in the box, bring quality in the final third, and that's what you're going to get. Look at those stats: second chances created, second open play crosses, third in assists. And if you compare them to Target, I think it's PG Analytics who did some comparisons. 2.5 shot creating actions per 90 compared to 1.7. Matt Target, 3.5 crosses per 90 compared to 2.6, 1.5 key passes compared to 1.3, 73.3% tackle success rate compared to 37.1% against Target again. So, Luca Digne, who's many think is obviously defending it's probably not as strong as Target, is still, done fairly well on that respect. But definitely I think the key attribute for him is attacking wise creativity. Everton have missed him massively. He was a massive part of the reason why they started the season so well, did so well last season as well. His crosses to Calvert-Lewin, his creativity to the final third, and I think it's very fortunate he's fallen out with Rafa, and we've pounced.
We've taken advantage of that massively.
And if there was one player, if we said at the beginning of the season we need to replace Matt Target or we need to improve on Matt Target, who would you love to sign? He'd be probably number 1 on my list.
And you'd have said it was unrealistic. You'd have said absolutely no way. If you could have picked a Premier League left back, I think you'd have thought, I'm dreaming a little bit here, but I'd like someone like that. He'd be great. And now you've got him.
It's mad. It's mad. It's crazy. It's apart from Robertson, like I said, that he'd be the obvious choice. Robertson would obviously nowhere near gettable. Luca Digne, like you say, would have been not dreamland, but it would have been highly ambitious move looking at it back then.
Yeah.
For us to get him now, and he's obviously going to be hungry to play. I think World Cup's coming up as well.
That's part of the reason I think he wanted to move. He
Yeah.
wanted to move to a club that he felt was going to be on the up. I think he's probably a player that's wanted to go to a Champions League club over the last year or so, where he's happy at Everton, but if a Champions League club had come in for him,
Yeah.
he might have wanted to look at it. He's also been captain for Everton, so he's got leadership qualities. Well, I can't say that's something I've ever noticed when I've watched him on TV, whether he's got the leadership qualities. But he's been captain.
Yeah, and him and Coutinho are winners as well. They've won. They've won. They won.
He's got to play for Barcelona.
Played for Barcelona. Played for Roma. Played for Paris Saint-Germain. Coutinho's played Barca, Liverpool, Brazil. Obviously, these are elite level players and playing in elite level competitions and used to winning things. Maybe not Everton, obviously, but before that, he's used to playing in the competitions and with a serious chance of winning them in the teams that he's played in. So you need that mentality in a team. We haven't really had that ever at Villa. I can't remember the last time where we've bought World Cup winning, Champions League winning players like Perez, but he was near the end of his career. I can't remember. I seriously can't remember too many players.
John Terry.
John Terry, and again, end of his career. It's just to buy players at the peak of their career.
It's great.
It's great, and you can only be positive and and just hope it works out. That's all you can do as a fan. You've got to be positive about these things. Just like you say, if someone had told you you're going to sign these two players at the beginning of the window, you'd be saying no way. And now obviously linked with Bissouma, although I guess we'll see about that. I'm unsure. Firstly, whether Brighton will sell, also whether this pending court case is going to mean that it's probably unrealistic. But
that's
being linked with those players,
if I'm being honest.
But I think it shows you that we're trying to buy the ready-made player now in the key position.
There's nothing wrong with that because we've gone the route. We've got people coming through. We've got young Premier League players now. I think like Conser, Watkins, young. When I say young, I know they're not kids, but you know what I mean. They're on the younger side of established Premier League players. I think nothing wrong with bringing in a couple of established players. That's what we again. That's what we haven't had over the years. So I think it makes complete sense. It's not like when you're bringing in established Premier League players like Kieran Richardson and Philip Senderos, is it? Bringing in Philip Coutinho and Luca Digne is unbelievable.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. You those players like, for example, like people like Cleverley and Richardson and all that kind of players when we did under Lambert. I'm trying to think of other players like Joe Cole we brought in before. They've always been either not at the level that these players are at or towards the end of their career. To have players in the peak at that level, it's massive for Villa. It shows you the pull of the club as well. I think not just Gerrard, but Villa is still a big club.
Yeah.
And it's important if you want to become a big club again. You need to act like it, and this is how you do it. And this shows it's a bit of a sign, really, I think, to other Premier League teams and just the footballing community as well. I think other potential signings either this window or in the summer. You're going to see us buying these kinds of players. I think it's a good sign. Shows your ambition as well, and with obviously Newcastle now being the richest club in the world and what they're trying to do, I think it's key that we've sort of.
They'd love to be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think
absolutely. These two signings are actually the two signings that those owners would have wanted to make a statement with, and those 100%. Kind of signings, and we've done it. We're winning the transfer window for me. Clinical.
Exactly. Long term, I guess we'll see, but I think for now, that's a big marker. Whereas, it reminds me a bit like Randy Lerner when obviously we had Randy Lerner come in, and then suddenly a year later or a couple of years later, Man City were bought out, and it sort of changed football forever, really. And let's face it, it had a massive impact on us and what we were able to do, because obviously they bought Barry, Milner, and Delph, etc. as well. So the fact we're doing the opposite to what we did then now is a good sign, and hope it continues.
Yeah, we certainly mean business, and it's great to be coming on and doing these impromptu transfer shows. I wonder who we'll be doing one on next week. It'd be a sad week if we didn't get a player in. That's two for two so far, 2 weeks in, two world-class players coming in. Absolute scenes at Villa Park. We'll be back tomorrow for a match preview. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little reaction video into Luca Digne signing. If you have, then subscribe to the Villa View with your post notifications on. And if you want some new Luke Roper gear, then use our code TVV20 and you'll get 20% off all their garments. Some lovely stuff on there. Even though neither of us are wearing Luke for this show, do go and check it out. Thanks ever so much for watching. As I say, we will be back tomorrow. Stay happy. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.